Did you know that 18 major food manufacturers just issued urgent warnings to retailers about critical supply shortages hitting this fall? We're not talking about temporary delays or minor price bumps. We're talking about entire product categories that could completely vanish from grocery stores by September 2025. And here's what's really scary. Most people have no idea this is coming. Right now, as I'm recording this, warehouse inventories for certain essential items have dropped to their lowest levels in over a decade. Three separate industry reports released just last week confirm what supply chain experts have been quietly discussing for months. The perfect storm is brewing, and it's about to hit your local supermarket hard. But here's the thing, if you know what's coming, you can prepare. While everyone else scrambles through empty aisles wondering what happened, you'll already have what you need. In this video, I'm revealing the 10 grocery items that will become nearly impossible to find by September. These aren't random guesses or fear-mongering predictions. These are based on current manufacturing reports, shipping data, and supplier warnings that most consumers never see. I've spent weeks digging through industry newsletters, talking to people who work directly in food distribution, and analyzing the supply chain disruptions that are happening right now. What I discovered will shock you, especially item number 7. That one caught even me completely off guard, and it's probably sitting in your kitchen cabinet as we speak. Now, before we dive in, let me be crystal clear about something. This isn't about creating panic or encouraging hoarding. This is about being informed so you can make smart decisions for your family. The people who prepare thoughtfully today won't have to panic tomorrow. So hit that like button if you want to stay ahead of what's coming, and let's get into these 10 items before it's too late. Number 1. Premium cooking oils. Your kitchen staples are about to become luxury items, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. We're not just talking about a small price increase here. We're looking at potential shortages that could leave entire sections of the cooking oil aisle completely empty. Here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. The global oilseed market is in chaos right now. Major producing regions have been hit by consecutive climate disasters that have decimated crops. Argentina, which supplies a huge portion of the world's sunflower oil, just reported their worst harvest in 15 years. Meanwhile, palm oil production in Southeast Asia has dropped by 23% since last year due to extreme weather patterns that destroyed thousands of acres of plantations. But it gets worse. The shipping routes that transport these oils are facing massive disruptions. Container costs have tripled since January, and many smaller oil producers simply can't afford to export their products anymore. They're keeping everything domestic to protect their local markets. What really opened my eyes was talking to a warehouse manager last week who told me their premium oil inventory is down 60% compared to this time last year. He said distributors are already warning them to expect severe shortages by late summer. The oils that will disappear first are the specialty ones: avocado oil, walnut oil, sesame oil, and even some grades of olive oil. Your regular vegetable oil might still be available, but expect to pay double what you're paying now. And those heart-healthy oils that everyone's been switching to for better nutrition, they're going to become so expensive that most families simply won't be able to afford them. The smart move right now is to stock up on the oils you actually use. These products have long shelf lives when stored properly, so buying a few extra bottles now makes perfect sense. Keep them in cool, dark places, and they'll stay good for months. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in September when you're not paying $15 for a bottle of cooking oil. Number 2. Specialty flours and baking ingredients. Baking enthusiasts, this one's going to hit you hard. The ingredients that make your homemade bread, cakes, and cookies special are about to become incredibly scarce. The wheat situation globally is more serious than most people realize. Ukraine and Russia, which together supply nearly 30% of the world's wheat exports, are still dealing with ongoing conflicts that have severely disrupted production. But that's just part of the problem. Here in the United States, wheat-growing regions are facing their own crisis. The Great Plains states have been hammered by extreme weather patterns. First, there were devastating droughts that stunted crop growth. Then came unexpected flooding that damaged what was left. Kansas, which normally produces about 10% of all U.S. wheat, is reporting yields down 45% from last year, Nebraska and Oklahoma are seeing similar drops. This isn't just affecting regular all purpose flour, though that's certainly going to get more expensive. The real shortage is hitting specialty flours that health conscious bakers depend on. Whole wheat flour, bread flour, and pastry flour are all becoming harder to source. Mills are prioritizing their most basic products just to keep up with demand. But here's where it gets really concerning for home bakers. The specialty ingredients that make baking fun and creative are disappearing fast. Almond flour, coconut flour, and other alternative flours are already showing supply problems. One supplier I spoke with said they've had to limit orders from retailers because they simply can't get enough raw materials. Even basic baking ingredients like vanilla extract and baking powder are facing shortages. Vanilla production has been disrupted by weather problems in Madagascar, while the chemical components used in baking powder are becoming more expensive and harder to source. If you love to bake, now is the time to stock your pantry. Flour stores well in airtight containers, and most baking ingredients have long shelf lives. Don't wait until you're in the middle of making holiday cookies only to find out the store is completely out of the flour you need. Number 3, imported seasonings and spices. Here's something most people never think about until it's gone. Those little jars of spices and seasonings that make your food actually taste good. These tiny ingredients are about to become a major problem. The global spice trade is incredibly complex and fragile. Most of our everyday spices come from very specific regions around the world. Black pepper from Vietnam, cinnamon from Sri Lanka, cardamom from Guatemala. When any of these regions face problems, the ripple effects hit grocery stores worldwide. Right now, multiple spice-producing regions are dealing with serious issues simultaneously. India, which supplies about 70% of the world's spices, has been hit by unpredictable monsoon patterns that have damaged crops across multiple states. Vietnam's pepper farms are struggling with plant diseases and labor shortages. Even basic spices like garlic powder and onion powder are facing supply problems because the raw materials are becoming scarce. But here's what makes the spice shortage particularly tricky. These are low-priority items for shipping companies. When container space gets tight and costs go up, spices are often the first things left behind at ports. They're lightweight, low-value cargo compared to other goods, so they get bumped when space is limited. I talked to someone who works at a major spice importing company, and they told me something that really stuck with me. They said spice prices have already doubled on the wholesale level, but most of that increase hasn't hit grocery store shelves yet. When it does, people are going to be shocked at how expensive these basic seasonings become. The spices that will disappear first are the imported ones. Real saffron, whole spices like cardamom pods and star anise, and specialty blends that depend on multiple ingredients sourced from different countries. Even common spices like oregano and basil, if they're imported, could become hard to find. Your spice rack might seem like a minor thing to worry about, but think about how bland your cooking will become without proper seasonings. This is one of those categories where spending a little extra money now to stock up makes total sense. Whole spices last longer than ground ones, so consider buying peppercorns instead of ground pepper, whole cinnamon sticks instead of powder. The food shortages that are coming aren't just about having enough calories. They're about maintaining quality of life, and that includes being able to cook meals that actually taste good. Number 4. Canned tomato products. Your pantry staples are about to disappear, and this one's going to affect almost every household in America. We're talking about canned tomatoes, tomato paste, tomato sauce, even ketchup. These products that we take for granted are heading toward a shortage crisis that most people haven't seen coming. Here's what's happening in the tomato industry right now. California produces about 95% of America's processed tomatoes. They're facing a disaster. Water restrictions have forced farmers to reduce their planted acreage by 30% this year alone. But it's not just about water. The extreme heat waves hitting the Central Valley have been literally cooking tomatoes on the vine before they can be harvested. I spoke with a tomato processor last month who told me something that really opened my eyes. He said their contracts with grocery store chains are already being renegotiated because they simply can't guarantee the volumes they promised. Some smaller processing plants have already shut down for the season because they can't get enough raw tomatoes to make it profitable. But here's where it gets really concerning. Italy, which supplies a lot of our premium canned tomato products, is dealing with their own agricultural crisis. The Po Valley, which is basically Italy's version of California's Central Valley, has been hit by the worst drought conditions in decades. Italian tomato production is down 40% from last year, and that's affecting everything from basic tomato sauce to those fancy San Marzano tomatoes that cost $6 to can. The ripple effects are already starting to show up in restaurants. Pizza places are quietly switching to cheaper sauce alternatives. Italian restaurants are having to completely reformulate their signature dishes because they can't get consistent supplies of quality tomato products. What makes this shortage particularly brutal is timing. We're heading into canning season, which should be when tomato products are most abundant. Instead, processors are warning retailers to expect shortages by late summer that could extend well into next year. If you use canned tomato products regularly for cooking, pasta sauce, or even just keeping ketchup in your fridge, now is the time to stock up. These products have incredibly long shelf lives, so buying extra won't hurt your budget over time. Just make sure you're rotating your stock and using the oldest cans first. Number 5. Certain dairy alternatives. Plant-based milk lovers, this one's for you, and it's not good news. The dairy alternative market that exploded over the past few years is about to face a massive supply crunch that could leave store shelves looking pretty bare. Oat milk, which became everyone's favorite coffee shop order, is facing serious production problems. The oats used to make oat milk require specific growing conditions and processing equipment. Right now, oat crops in key growing regions like Canada and Scandinavia have been hit by unpredictable weather patterns that have reduced yields significantly. But here's what's really causing problems for oat milk production. The specialized processing equipment needed to turn oats into that creamy milk alternative keeps breaking down, and replacement parts are incredibly hard to get. These aren't standard manufacturing components that you can order from any supplier. They're custom-made parts that have to be shipped from specific manufacturers, often overseas. One oat milk producer told me they've been waiting 4 months for a critical machine part, and their production line has been running at half capacity the entire time. When you multiply that across the industry, you start to understand why oat milk supplies are getting tight. Almond milk isn't faring any better. California's almond orchards, which supply most of the world's almonds, are facing the same water crisis affecting other crops. But almonds are particularly water-intensive. It takes about 1 gallon of water to grow a single almond, and with water restrictions getting stricter, many farmers are choosing to let their trees die rather than pay the astronomical water cost. Soy milk production is being hit by shipping delays and increased costs for soybeans. The processing plants that turn soybeans into soy milk are dealing with labor shortages and equipment problems, similar to other food manufacturers. Even coconut milk, which you'd think would be more stable since it comes from tropical regions, is facing supply chain disruptions. Shipping costs from Southeast Asia have tripled, making it expensive for companies to import the coconut cream needed for production. What's really frustrating about this situation is that demand for dairy alternatives keeps growing. More people are switching to plant-based diets, more coffee shops are offering these options, and more parents are giving them to their kids. But production capacity isn't keeping up with demand, and now supply chain problems are making everything worse. If you rely on dairy alternatives, especially for dietary restrictions or health reasons, you need to start stocking up now. Look for shelf-stable versions that don't require refrigeration until opened. These products typically last much longer and give you more flexibility in how you store them. Number 6. Premium pet foods. Pet owners, this one's going to hit you right in the heart and the wallet. The specialty pet foods that keep our furry family members healthy and happy are about to become incredibly difficult to find. The pet food industry has been dealing with a perfect storm of supply chain issues that most pet owners don't even know about. The meat byproducts and specialty ingredients that go into premium pet foods are facing the same shortages affecting human food production. When cattle, chicken, and fish supplies get tight, pet food manufacturers are often the first to lose access to quality ingredients. But here's what makes the pet food shortage particularly scary. Pets can't just switch to any random food without health consequences. Dogs and cats with allergies, digestive issues, or other health problems depend on specific formulations that might simply not be available. I talked to a veterinarian who told me she's already seeing problems. Pet food companies are quietly reformulating their products, changing ingredients without always making it obvious on the packaging. Pets that have been eating the same food for years are suddenly having digestive problems because the formula changed, even though the bag looks the same. The premium brands that pet owners trust most are being hit the hardest. These companies often use more expensive, higher quality ingredients that are becoming scarce. Some specialty pet food manufacturers have already stopped taking new orders from retailers because they can't guarantee consistent supply. What's really concerning is that pet food recalls and shortages can happen suddenly and without much warning. When a key ingredient becomes unavailable, production lines shut down immediately. Unlike human food, where there might be substitutes available, pet food formulations are very specific. If you have a pet that depends on a particular brand or formula, especially for health reasons, you need to start building up a supply now. Dry pet food typically has a long shelf life, so buying a few extra bags won't hurt your budget over time. Just make sure you're storing it properly to maintain freshness and nutritional value. Number 7. Household cleaning products. This next one completely shocked me when I first learned about it. The cleaning products you use every day to keep your home safe and sanitary are facing supply problems that could leave store shelves surprisingly empty. The chemicals used in household cleaners come from a very concentrated industrial supply chain. Most of the active ingredients in your dish soap, laundry detergent, and disinfectants are produced by just a handful of chemical manufacturers worldwide. When those manufacturers face problems, it affects hundreds of consumer brands simultaneously. Right now, several key chemical plants are dealing with maintenance shutdowns that were delayed during the pandemic and can't be postponed any longer. These aren't quick fixes. We're talking about complex industrial processes that require weeks or months of downtime to repair and upgrade equipment. Energy costs are also crushing chemical manufacturers. These facilities require enormous amounts of electricity and natural gas to operate, and with energy prices volatile, some plants are reducing production or shutting down temporarily when it becomes unprofitable to operate. The packaging for cleaning products is facing its own crisis. The plastic bottles, spray nozzles, and caps used for cleaners are produced by specialized manufacturers who are dealing with resin shortages and equipment problems. You can have all the cleaning chemicals in the world, but if you can't package them properly for retail sale, they can't get to consumers. What makes this situation particularly concerning is timing. We're heading into back-to-school season when demand for cleaning products typically spikes. Families stock up on disinfectants, parents buy extra supplies for college dorms, and schools place large orders for institutional cleaners. If you use specific brands of cleaning products, especially ones for sensitive skin or eco-friendly formulations, you should consider buying extra supplies now. These specialty products are often the first to disappear when supply gets tight because they represent smaller market segments that manufacturers might temporarily abandon to focus on their biggest sellers. Number 8. Breakfast cereals and oats. Your morning routine is about to get a lot more complicated and expensive. The breakfast aisle that you mindlessly walk through every week is facing disruptions that could leave families scrambling to find their daily staples. Here's what most people don't realize about cereal production. It's not just about grain shortages, though those are definitely part of the problem. The real issue is how complex modern cereal manufacturing has become. These aren't simple products anymore. They're fortified with vitamins, minerals, and additives that come from suppliers all over the world. Take something as basic as cornflakes. You'd think corn would be easy to source, right? Wrong. The specific type of corn used for cereals has to meet exact specifications for size, moisture content, and processing characteristics. Regular feed corn won't work. And right now, cereal-grade corn production is down significantly due to weather problems across the Midwest. But here's where it gets really complicated. The vitamins and minerals added to cereals come from pharmaceutical-grade suppliers who are dealing with their own manufacturing issues. Vitamin B12, iron supplements, folic acid, these aren't agricultural products. They're manufactured in specialized facilities that are experiencing equipment failures and raw material shortages. I spoke with someone who works in cereal production, and they told me something that really stuck with me. They said their company has had to reformulate 3 different cereals in the past 6 months because they couldn't get consistent supplies of specific additives. The cereals still taste the same, but the nutritional profiles have changed and they're not always required to make that obvious to consumers. Oats are facing their own unique crisis. The oats used for oatmeal and granola aren't just any oats. They go through a specific processing procedure that removes hulls, steams, and flakes them in precise ways. The equipment that does this processing is old, breaks down frequently, and replacement parts are incredibly difficult to source. Scotland, which supplies a lot of premium oats for high-end oatmeal brands, is dealing with weather patterns that have affected both crop quality and quantity. The oats are growing, but they're not meeting the standards needed for human consumption. Much of the harvest is being downgraded to animal feed. What's really concerning is that breakfast cereals and oats are comfort foods for most families. Kids have their favorite cereals. Adults have their morning oatmeal routines. When these products become scarce or expensive, it affects daily life in ways that go beyond just nutrition. The cereals that will disappear first are the specialty ones, organic varieties, gluten-free options, and premium brands that use higher quality ingredients. The big manufacturers will probably keep producing their most popular products, but expect significant price increases and limited variety. If your family depends on specific cereals or oatmeal varieties, especially for dietary restrictions, you need to start stocking up now. These products have decent shelf lives, and buying a few extra boxes each shopping trip won't break your budget but could save you a lot of stress later. Number 9. Frozen convenience foods. The freezer section that has saved countless busy families is about to become a lot less convenient. Frozen meals, pizza, vegetables, and prepared foods are facing supply chain disruptions that could leave those glass doors looking pretty empty. The frozen food industry depends on an incredibly complex cold chain that has to work perfectly from farm to freezer. Any break in that chain ruins entire shipments of product. Right now, that cold chain is under more stress than it's ever been. Refrigerated trucking is facing a crisis. The specialized trucks needed to transport frozen foods require constant maintenance and expensive fuel. Many trucking companies are choosing to focus on regular freight instead of dealing with the complications of keeping products frozen during transport. Driver shortages are particularly bad in the refrigerated transport sector because it requires special training and equipment. But here's what's really causing problems for frozen foods. The packaging used for these products is incredibly specialized. Those boxes, plastic trays, and films that keep frozen foods fresh and protected are produced by manufacturers who are dealing with material shortages and equipment problems. Energy costs are crushing frozen food manufacturers. These facilities require enormous amounts of electricity to keep production lines and storage warehouses at proper temperatures. Some smaller manufacturers have already shut down temporarily because their electricity bills became higher than their revenue. The vegetables used in frozen food products are facing the same agricultural problems affecting fresh produce, but with an added complication. Vegetables destined for freezing have to be processed immediately after harvest. Any delays in getting crops from field to processing plant result in total loss of product quality. I talked to a frozen food distributor who told me their inventory levels are the lowest they've been in 15 years. Major brands are cutting back on product variety to focus on their best sellers. Those specialty frozen meals that cater to specific diets or preferences are being discontinued left and right. What makes this particularly challenging for families is that frozen convenience foods have become essential for managing busy schedules. Working parents depend on having backup meals in the freezer. College students rely on affordable frozen options. When these products become scarce or expensive, it forces people to completely change how they plan and prepare meals. The products that will disappear first are the premium frozen meals, organic options, and specialty items like gluten-free frozen pizzas. The basic frozen vegetables and simple prepared foods will probably still be available, but expect to pay significantly more and have fewer choices. Number 10. Imported coffee and tea products. Coffee lovers, this final item on our list is going to hurt. Your daily caffeine ritual is about to become much more expensive and potentially impossible to maintain with your favorite brands. The global coffee market is experiencing what industry experts are calling a perfect storm of disasters. Climate change is devastating coffee growing regions in ways that most consumers don't understand. Coffee plants are incredibly sensitive to temperature and rainfall changes. Even small variations in weather patterns can ruin entire harvests. Brazil, which produces about 40% of the world's coffee, has been hit by alternating droughts and floods that have damaged coffee plantations across multiple states. The coffee trees that survive these weather extremes often produce beans of lower quality that don't meet the standards for specialty coffee brands. But here's what makes the coffee shortage particularly brutal. Coffee is a commodity that gets traded on global markets where prices can spike suddenly based on weather reports, political instability, or shipping disruptions. We're already seeing coffee futures prices at levels that haven't been seen in over a decade. Shipping costs for coffee have tripled since last year. Coffee beans are bulky, heavy cargo that takes up a lot of container space. When shipping companies prioritize higher value freight, coffee often gets bumped to later shipments or canceled entirely. Tea is facing similar problems, but for different reasons. The tea gardens in India, Sri Lanka, and Kenya that supply most of the world's tea are dealing with labor shortages, water scarcity, and changing weather patterns that affect the delicate timing of tea harvests. Specialty coffee roasters are already warning their customers about price increases of 30% or more. Some smaller roasting companies have stopped taking new wholesale orders because they can't guarantee consistent supplies of green coffee beans. The coffee products that will disappear first are the single origin specialty beans, organic and fair trade varieties, and premium instant coffee options. Basic coffee blends will probably still be available, but expect to pay prices that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. If you're serious about your coffee, you need to start stocking up on whole beans now. Coffee beans can be stored in the freezer for months without losing quality. Buy your favorite roast while they're still available and at current prices. The tea shortage is going to hit specialty teas hardest. Those expensive loose leaf varieties, herbal blends, and premium tea bags are already becoming difficult for retailers to source consistently. What's really concerning about both coffee and tea shortages is how they affect daily routines and social connections. These aren't just beverages, they're rituals that help people start their day, social lubricants for business meetings, and comfort drinks during stressful times. So there you have it, 10 grocery items that are heading towards serious shortage problems. By September 2025, from cooking oils to coffee, these aren't random predictions or fear-mongering. These are real supply chain disruptions that are happening right now, affecting products that millions of families depend on every single day. The smart move isn't to panic or hoard everything in sight. It's to be strategic about stocking up on the items your family actually uses while they're still available at reasonable prices. A few extra bottles of cooking oil, some backup cleaning supplies, extra bags of your pet's food. Small preparations that could save you a lot of stress and money later.